welcome to the House of ZK Radio, which is a focused podcast and media channel exploring everything ZK, zero knowledge.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And it's very difficult to come after the last two panels. I don't know if anybody attended the first. It was a really good literature review as a prof. My name is Redouane Elkamhi. I'm a university professor, full-time professor at the University of Toronto. And I work as a chief economist for the GOAT network. And I just wanted to highlight there is quantity and quality. It's a very, very good literature review that just happened in the first panel, which is in the first panel, first key speaker, and the quality of what people have been saying, the four guys that have been sitting here, there was a lot of good quality in what they're actually talking about. If you're really in the field for a long time, you can see those inflection, those discussions are actually very worth it. If they can get it distributed, it will be very interesting for everyone. Just a highlight and a good positive feedback on the previous ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Redouane, you've been involved in academia for many years now. I'm very curious to hear what led you to broaden your focus to the industry with your involvement with GOAT, and also curious to hear about what was the origin for your original interest in Bitcoin.
Okay. I was my first degree actually is an engineering degree, cryptography, 1997. Basically, I was actually in the cryptography business, and I realized that we don't make enough money as engineers. And I said, well, let's do a PhD in economics. I did a PhD in economics. I became a prof. I was lucky to get a job as an untenured professor. I become tenure with a lot of work in economics. And I remember when I became associate professor, that was 2013, 2014, when they asked me, I don't know, you guys, majority of this field are usually younger, but they don't realize there was like this push for machine learning, AI, blockchain, and for academia, we're like lost. What are we going to teach? I'm a finance professor, economic professor, and we wanted basically to keep up. And I'm a PhD coordinator. I teach PhD classes and MBA, and we just said, what is all this? And they say, okay, Redouane, you have this engineering degree. Could you actually do a course? Literally, and the best thing to learn something is basically to teach it. I know many people may not agree. They say, oh, a teacher should know something. Well, let me break it to you. Actually, you learn it just a little faster than the student. That's it. And sometimes you just jump into a field, you don't know it, and you start. And I realized we've been doing the first course of blockchain in North America, and that was at the University of Toronto. I'm at the University of Toronto. And I try to design the first course. And this is where I get hooked to the field. And since then, I was in Bitcoin. I was a Bitcoiner. I invest in it. I did a private company that basically invests in it. But I wasn't a big believer. Very important. I wasn't a big believer because I didn't spend enough time to study it. And my objective before I retire is only to have enough Bitcoin that I used to have in 2013. That's literally now my objective. Because what I had in 2013 and I sold was that shows you that the more you learn about something, the more conviction you get into it. And this is one of the things that is rare, which is only in Bitcoin. At least for me, I realize the people that are negative about it are the people that never read about it. They don't understand the details about it. They don't spend time on it. And the more time you spend, the more details you have, the more you believe in it. And as I was saying, when I was just investing in it, didn't know it was too cheap. I didn't care. When it appreciated 3x, I just sold. And I sold so much. And I realized the more I learned that there is something there. And I couldn't talk. It means I didn't transition. I'm still a professor at the University of Toronto, but I have this amazing job with the MITIS. I worked with MITIS in 2019, started MITIS with them, me, I was an advisor. But with GOAT, I become a chief economist because what we need is an economic model for Bitcoin. Bitcoin was not just, okay, this is maybe can piss off some people. Well, we don't have many. If they don't get pissed off, they will not beat me up or run away. It's not like a magic things of cryptography. It's not really, really difficult cryptography. The papers on cryptography on Bitcoin is literally in the 80s and the 90s. The magic part of Bitcoin, the magic part, is combining the economic use case to cryptography. This is the magic part. The magic part is it took many, many years for people solving cryptography problem. It was one guy, one foundation, I don't know who is he, who come up with the idea that, wait a second, we have a banking crisis, we have counterparty risk, we have all this problem of fiat currency. Could we build a moral hazard adverse selection proof, or let's say call it a game theoretical equilibrium, that actually can be useful to people? And that's what is very interesting in the Bitcoin. It's not the crypto part, it's basically the combination of the two. That's what I'm hooked to it. That's what I teach. That's what I spend a lot of time on. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And it's very great to hear that you were one of the first people to be involved in the first blockchain course in North America. And it's very exciting because, yes, the number one, very exciting because now I hear of other like university programs having majors that people can major in blockchain. And your point about the more that you read, the more that you educate yourself, the more that you believe, I think that aspect is really important, especially as we're thinking about broader adoption, the education component. So thank you, Dr. Redouane.
And call me Redouane.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm curious to hear about some of the current challenges with the sustainable yield models that exist in these Bitcoin scaling solutions. And more specifically, the challenges that currently exist and how we can ensure that these yield generation models maintain sustainability over time, making sure that we can attract users while not diluting the underlying assets.
So many questions in one, by the way. Attracting users is the button. There was a question on the previous panel about bottleneck, and I think users are really a real bottleneck. And that can shows in people attention span is so little in this industry, and it will come. It will come. It just needs time and confidence. The question was on sustainable yield. To say sustainable yield first, there's one thing missing: sustainable yield in what? That's very important. Because if you're making, let's say, a yield denominated in cuckoo coin, and cuckoo goes to zero, that's not sustainable because cuckoo is a coin that may go to zero. People don't pay attention to this. They just hear yield, 22%, 30%, 10%. 10% in what? That's key. To be sustainable, your currency has to be connected to something solid. It means my understanding, at least my thinking is that suppose you pay Bitcoin yield to Bitcoiners, but now now you're connecting, you're linking, you're pegging, using finance term, your yield to something that is a hard currency, not just a token. And that's becoming important. The second thing, sustainability comes from what? In order for me to pay you yield, I need people to use my network. And I need them to be using it sustainably. In order to use it sustainably, I need to create an environment that is good for different heterogeneous investors. There are retail, there are institutions, and there are sovereign. I would not have said sovereign just 2 years ago, or institutions just 3 years ago. But right now, it's a beautiful time, actually. It's coming. Because anybody who works in finance, which I did all my career now, heterogeneity creates value. Heterogeneity by heterogeneity just means different type of risk-return profile. You want to take more risk, you want to take less risk. He is regulated, she's not regulated. They want to take different type of risk. It means you basically share risk and share returns. To create sustainability, you need demand from different type of profile. It means your ecosystem have to target different type of profile. Unless you have a killer app or whatever, people will come to you. But 2 days later, the Angry Bird, whatever toy will actually be angry, and then they disappear and never show up. If you're based on airdrop, and one thing actually, sorry, as a prof, we talk too much sometimes, and we like to talk. There is one thing I realize a lot since I started. I told 2013. We want new users. We don't want to just split the existing users. Everybody's fighting for the same type of users, and those users, in fact, we don't want them anymore. Like honestly, it's almost like become a corrupted user. Because this user is waiting for airdrop. You give them airdrop, they take the airdrop, they jump in somewhere else, they jump in somewhere else, they jump in somewhere else. It means if you build your system on airdrop, you're not sustainable. You need to build your system so that you link it to something that is real, like BTC, you have to pay BTC. Second, you need to have enough security for your ecosystem so that people will trust to basically use it. The previous panel, if I was in it, I will push back a little bit on, I think we're not solving the problems yet. Like, I think if people say, oh, many of the problems that are technical have been solved, there was some gentleman in the audience who said there is no L2 yet. I love that, because that's actually the truth. There is right now no one that can claim to be native L2, which has not been discussed enough. What does it mean to become native L2 or inheriting Bitcoin security? If you don't inherit Bitcoin security, and at what rate? Someone was saying you need one end, someone was saying you need one and one miner, but at what cost? If it costs you a lot to keep your security, I'm sorry again because I'm trying to clarify a lot of myth, hopefully. If it costs you so much to create security, you have nothing to give to people anyway at the end. You have users, that's your revenue, minus the cost of security, equal profit. The profit has to be distributed, and in order to be distributed fairly, you need to be decentralized. It means the question what you ask is seems to be a little question, but it's very, very profound. To have sustainable yield, you need decentralization in your L2. You need your currency to be pegged to BTC or something solid. You need people to trust your network, and in that case, not just decentralization, but either bridging, either Glide, either this, either whatever system you're inheriting the hash rate. Like I'm not claiming one is better than the other now because everybody is trying to push the boundaries, but generally these are all ingredients has to be there in order to give sustainable yield.
Yeah,
I hope too long for an answer. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Redouane. So it sounds like there's quite a few components that need to be considered. One with decentralization, one with pegging your currency to something solid, and then also you mentioned about tailoring your environment to a heterogeneous audience, so accommodating for different risk profiles.
Yeah, okay. And I can tell you these days there is no product for institutions yet. Very rare. You see people doing development for institutions or sovereign. You see many for retail, but also but I think the key point, I'm going to hammer it here, is not like I want product for different people. I want to share risk. I want it to be able that you, let's say you're an institution, you're better dressed than me, you seem like an institutional guy, and I'm like a retail guy. We need to be able to swap risk so that you're happy and I'm happy. Because you're able to swap risk with me and both of us are happy, you're making less return for the risk you're taking, I'm making more return for the risk you're making. And that's what is missing right now in any ecosystem that exists. It's not, traditional finance is really good at that. It's called securitization. It's really good at that. Go ahead.
Got it. And very curious to see or to hear about GOAT's approach. So how does GOAT's sustainable BTC yield model differ from, say, some of the other yield models that are used by other players in the industry? And GOAT also really emphasizes having a flywheel effect. So I'm wondering if you can shed some more light about that.
I'll shed some light on GOAT. The word flywheel is overly used. I may not use the same term because everybody in his slide have the word flywheel. And like I just want to make sure to say it. It's instead of comparing with other people, and I was saying I just want to say what is the pillars. As I answered you in the first question, what are the pillars you need in order to deliver sustainable yield? And the pillar you need, it's already kind of what we're trying to develop in GOAT. The pillar we need is decentralization in L2. And maybe if people have worked in traditional finance a lot, they will understand this a lot. Competition creates value right away. You don't need to work to understand it. If you have one central entity or oligopoly, you can never share a lot of yield. You're going to share a lot in the beginning. You're going to create because you can make decisions yourself and do whatever you want. But at some point, you're not going to be able to be competing on the yield. Because if all of us here are decentralized, and if I don't give enough yield and he give enough yield, people will go and stake with him, not stake with me. It means decentralization creates value in L2. That's how GOAT first different than others. Now, you need to have security. And here, the panel before have discussed different ways to talk about that. The panel have mentioned OPCAT road, Colit VM, BitVM, OPCAT. They have mentioned different ways, okay? GOAT right now is in the path for establishing, we are a ZK rollup, but establishing a very good BitVM2 implementation, which I call it an enhanced BitVM2. Why it's enhanced? Because in BitVM2, it takes 2 weeks to get your money back. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And by the way, there was no proof. Anybody who read the paper of BitVM2, there was never a proof that he shows is 2 weeks. 2 weeks is just from Linus. And basically, he looked at what happened in Ethereum, and they say 2 weeks OP, 2 weeks OP. It means there has never been a simulation for which people have drawn a distribution and show how much percentage is type 1 error and type 2 errors. But generally, we believe empirically it has been 2 weeks. It's okay, let's call it 2 weeks. And it's a random challenge to everybody. Everybody can challenge. What's that allow you to do? That allow you to have a threat of doing something bad. Second, it makes people think, who can I bribe? I cannot bribe anybody in the room because anybody can be a challenger. It eliminates bribery, eliminates the possibility for basically, but it takes a big cost. It's so costly to do, it takes so long, it's not efficient, and if it's not efficient, there is no yield to share because the profit will be low, and even if you share it, it's going to be low. What GOAT is trying to do is trying to enhance that area of BitVM, which means the incentive system to be enhanced, to make it more practical, to be able basically to get your money back quicker. I had a long discussion also with our CTO, and we actually don't want to be married to BitVM. It's not like, oh, even marriage, there's divorce, but let's say use the same marriage example. For now, we think BitVM is the best solution, we're enhancing it. But what I think I want to establish, given my own, I spend my career, as I told you, in research, like this is my life. You think you know it all, and one day you open SSRN, and you realize, oh my God, is this paper amazing that come up and show whatever you did was completely obsolete anymore. It means the quantum resistance, ZK rollup doesn't exist yet. The quantum resistant taproot does not exist. There are many things that can come up and just makes us all obsolete. It means what we try to do with our CTU is to establish a mindset of being prepared. We are BitVM2. We are trying to implement BitVM2, but at the same, and we implemented it in a sense. We have a test net you can go, an efficient one, but we have teams that are actually exploring other solutions. It means I don't want to call it, we are the BitVM, like we are now. But if things change, we're ready to change. That's my motto. I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but given history, I've seen things change too quickly. It means for now, this is the business model, decentralization in L2, enhanced BitVM2, and this will take us a long time to explain what do we enhance in it. If you want, I can go there. How do you enhance it without losing anything from BitVM? And then, and basically, and heterogeneity of product. And that's how we guarantee, hopefully, we have sustainable yield. And but at the end of the day, depend on users. If we can't attract users, we have the best infrastructure, but we're going to end up with zero, and to share zero becomes zero. I need something more than zero so that I can share it profitably. But if you don't have users, you're only doing the best thing to create zero. But we think better infrastructure incentivize people to move, incentivize institutions to move, incentivize a lot of things. But for now, I just want to be honest and clear with everybody. Everything is conditional on how much you attract users. If you don't attract them, you have the best infrastructure, you have nothing, even though. But I hope we will. That's our aim, at least.
Got it.
Sorry, too long again, yeah?
No, I think it's good. I think it's good. And curious to hear also how GOAT's yield generation strategy can be applied to other decentralized people's coins, like with Doge. I know that this is, we're all here for Bitcoin 2025, and this is the Bitcoin Economy Conference, but one of GOAT's other focuses is exploring how these can be applied to some other coins and adopting this multi-coin POS. So wanted to hear more about that as well.
I wish there was any Doge here, but I don't think there is no Doge here, but whatever. Let me tell you why. I think if anybody in the audience have realized, if the bottleneck is, one of the bottleneck is users, one of the things actually GOAT thought about is, why do I only need to stake BTC? I can actually stake something else and earn something else. And in this case, what we did, we said, who is one of the longest decentralized, think about it. You want transactions. Anybody think about it? You want transactions. It means you want to tap in to a pool of people that are kind of decentralized. They don't have a central entity that decide we have to pay them so much. Central entity means what? In order for you to come to my network, I need to pay you so much, and you're going to negotiate with me to the point that you're going to take all the rent that I'm going to generate. There's no need to negotiate. Doge community is very interesting. Doge community, for us, we view it as these extra things that can come to generate users' demand, user application for them, because right now they have nothing to generate yield. And in doing the transactions paid in BTC, they will be able to create a positive externality for the Bitcoiners. It means we're looking for tapped to a large community so that there is a positive externality.
Got it.
That's it.
Got it. And also just thinking more broadly about creating these economic models for Bitcoin layer 2s. How do they compare to those that are used in other L1s, like with Ethereum, for example? Are there any kinds of lessons that Bitcoin layer 2s can take away from, or does Bitcoin fundamentally require some different approaches?
Okay. I think this is interesting because Ethereum L2, okay, number one, everybody in this small audience may actually know, because sometimes quality versus quantity. This audience may know that Ethereum may not even need an L2. And normally, because it's programmable, you do everything in it, you can do a lot. And Ethereum business model for L2 has been very bad for Ethereum. Very bad for Ethereum. Basically, you pay much, much less, whatever. You gain $100 and you give them $1. Bitcoin, this is again, the beauty. I don't know who saw simplicity. Maybe it was you. When you talked about Bitcoin being, that's a very, very fundamental word, like truly fundamental. And this is why it's fundamental, because now when you create an L2, hold on. Now you need an L2 because you want to have a BTCFi. Okay, I step back for a second, I come back to that. Just a second. If I believe that Bitcoin will actually have 10x next year, I don't need an L2. I'm just going to hold it, wait for it to next year, make 10x, and move on. Let's be clear. This is a long game. When it's going to be a certain maturity, Bitcoin will mature, less volatility, and people will try to basically look for places to make yield. And anybody from corporation who has a treasury, they wanted to generate return for their treasury. But it's going to take some time. It's not for this year. I may not even say for next year. You will see. It's going to be very dry, and whatever people raise their VC, by the way, there's no VC also in this industry. VC comes in, they want risk-free rate, 100x risk-free. I never understood these VCs in this industry anyway. VC should support people to make good innovation. They basically come in, they want 10x, 15x. What risk you want? I want guarantee. Dude, it's a guarantee 10x. Make no sense. But this is this is between brackets. What was the question again? I think we're talking, I was back to the simplicity of it because it's so key. Miners are going to be in trouble if we continue like, it's honestly, guys, there's such a beautiful game theory problem here. Institutions are getting into this field. Sovereign get into this field. Bitcoin need to be a solid asset because they believe in it. But what make it a solid asset is the randomized, it's many, many miners, public and private miners. We don't want so many centralization of miners. We want to be spread out miners so that they don't collude. Those miners makes what? They make subsidy and they make transactions. Subsidy, we all know, is getting down. Even if the Bitcoin goes up with prices, it may actually go down. It means kind of you need an L2, not Bitcoin need an L2. In fact, L1 needs an L2, not L2. L2 needs an L1 because they want to inherit Bitcoin security. But L1 needs an L2 because L1 need to be paid by L2. But if I create a sidechain, I'm not actually reporting back. And I'm not even inheriting Bitcoin security. For me to inherit Bitcoin security, I need to be able to every 10 minutes or every 5, I don't depend on the protocols, what they try to do, to basically inherit that Bitcoin security each on a frequent basis. This is what the model is different. In order to inherit Bitcoin security, you have to pay the Bitcoin miners. Even if you're doing a ZK rollup or doing a hash or doing this, they're going to get paid. It means because of the simplicity, you sitting here, I think, because of the simplicity of Bitcoin, they don't have a lot of features. In order to inherit my case, you have to come back, decompose your transaction, pay me L1 fees, and I'm going to get paid L1 fees right now. And that becomes game theoretical equilibrium. It's funny because it's not complicated, but because of simplicity, it achieved game theoretical equilibrium. Beautiful. I don't know if Nakamoto thought about all these things, but this is honestly genius. This is where the genius of simplicity is. Even when the L2 comes up, they will not be like Ethereum L2. But here again, it depends on what people think. Because if people don't care, they just go to sidechain, they do whatever they want, and they don't worry about security, then this will not happen. But I'm hopeful, and you know why I'm hopeful? If you notice, the first wrapped BTC happened in 2018, I may be wrong, 2018, 19, 17. But how many Bitcoin have moved to become wrapped? Give me a fraction. 0.7, 0.9%? It's kind of the market is efficient. The market is actually not as bad. Bitcoiners are not moving enough. It means kind of like silently waiting for trustless or trust minimized in order to move. And when they move to those L2s, it's going to be compatible. The miner will get paid because they need to inherit Bitcoin security, and the L2 have a role, and they're going to make money because we need a BTCFi. Because now we don't have a lot of volume. Sorry.
Got it.
Again, longer answer.
Got it. And just as a last question before we end today's session, I'm wondering if you have any kinds of predictions for how the Bitcoin ecosystem will evolve in the next few years, and also for any Bitcoin holders in the audience, how they can get more involved with GOAT.
Okay, I have a prediction, honestly, because since I've been this for a long time, number one, and I see a lot of young people as a university professor too, there is a lot of now interest in Bitcoin. To be honest with you, I have two scenarios. One scenario is more, let me start with the bad scenario. Being a Mediterranean, you always think of bad scenarios first somehow. You always think of risk. Centralization scares me because there are many, many, many institutions are into the field, and those institutions are highly centralized. And for somehow, people have lost the ethos of what actually makes Bitcoin even exist at first place. But at some point, they're going to realize it. They're smart people. They're going to realize that they need both. And decentralization may play a big role. But if decentralization goes this way, it's going to be a little bit problematic for Bitcoin to become what it used to be. My base scenario, this is like the pessimistic one. My base scenario is, the technology that is going to change things is not yet developed. And that's why all the teams has to be nimble. We are doing the enhanced version of BitVM2, which you can read it, but we are nimble. We actually think things are going to come that are going to be a game changer. We believe in it. And we have to stay nimble to be reading on these things. We're going to use the heterogeneity of investors. We're going to have products that are tailored to institutions. We have some discussion with some countries, and hopefully the announcement was supposed to be done in this meeting. I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but I'm not going to break the announcement, which means we're trying to do sovereign, we're trying to do institution, trying to do retails, because we're trying to benefit from heterogeneity of risk and returns in order to create value for our GOAT. But I didn't give you a prediction of Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin price prediction is to be, let's say, $1 million by 2030, let me tell you something. Do not move to any L2. Just keep your Bitcoin in your pocket. Wait another 3 years, 4 years. If it's $1 million, then start playing with it. And I'm an L2, you see, I shouldn't be saying this, but we're building this for the long term, and there is always people that need to build to put things into play. You don't have to put 100% of your money. You have to put 5% of your money or 10% of your money at play, and that's it. That's what I'm thinking, and thank you for.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you also for all those points, and really liked how you mentioned about building for the long term and adapting to these heterogeneous audiences, like what you mentioned with sovereign, retail, institutions, and then also your point about sticking to the core ethos with decentralization, which is the reason why most of us are in this industry in the first place. I think that's something that we all really need to remember. So thank you so much, Redouane.
Thank you. And it's a choice. It's not. It's not a choice only. It's a must. If you don't do it, you kill yourself. It's a poison pill, basically. If you don't do it. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.